Whole talk is in connection with our ongoing exhibition called the Handlooms of the South, which is happening right below where I'm sitting. It's on the ground floor, the Varija Gallery. You see these beautiful saris all over the place. Some of them have small damages, and director Devi's heart sank every time some of the saris were giving way here and there. So while we were speaking with the interns, they came up with these brilliant ideas, and one said a ramp walk with Sairi saris, and Shikta came up with this idea of how to preserve saris. Do we know someone? So here we have the expert in Chennai, and so we approached, and Savita was kind enough to speak on handloom saris and weavers. We made a video out of that, and that's also part of the exhibition right now. It's on till 4th of January. And before we go on to Sabita, I would like to say all the things she's been doing. She's very versatile. She's done lots of things, different areas, theater, cookery, textiles, and much more. But let me give you a formal introduction of Sabita. Sabita Radhakrishna, an international award-winning cookbook author, playwright, nurtures a passion for food and textiles and has been a textile and craft activist for over 40 years. She has written several cookbooks which won international awards. Well-known personality in Doordarshan in the mid-70s when Doordarshan actually started. She is an active member of the Crafts Council of India, which is very active even today. Her play, Song of the Loom, written, was staged by the Madras Players. Her latest book, The Looms of Arivur, is based on the play. She was senior consultant at the Kalakshetra Foundation from 2007 to 15 and initiated the revival of the languished Kodali Karupur sari, a legacy of Tanjavur, languished for over 800 years. He worked with the weaving community of Tanjavur and initiated the revival of the lost skill of four-way saris. Sabita works with the impoverished weaver communities. She worked with them during COVID time on a voluntary basis, helping them with design innovations and marketing and help them sell online. Helping weavers is one, but trying to market and sell them is the huge task when we talk of revival or sustenance. So she's really found a modern way, a workable way where the weavers were able to sell for more than 7.5 lakhs. Sabita has adopted during this time, during the COVID times, how she operated was she adopted 4 clusters in different weaving villages in Arani, Anakaputtur, and Jalakandapuram, and has targeted help for 100 weavers by procuring raw materials and paying wages for their work. Amongst other awards, she received the Pride of India Award from SPARRC. Savita, you should expand that.
Yeah.
And Trust for Excellence in Journalism and Social Service in 2018. The most commendable thing was through donations, she tried to help these weavers during the really terrible COVID times to provide sustainable livelihoods for at least 100 weavers. I think which is really, really a big deal. 100 weavers to help 100 weavers be put on track during difficult situations. So here we have Sabita Radhakrishna, and thank you for being with us, accepting to speak for Dakshin Chitra's exhibition. You can go on.
Thank you so much, Geeta, and it's been a pleasure to be meeting you after so many years. And always it's a pleasure to do something for Dakshin Chitra. Okay, so I'll just open my PPT. What's happening? It's not opening.
Parvati, yeah? Parvati, if you are there,
no, I brought it to the home page. I mean, the desktop. but what I'm opening is just coming blank. I can't see your, sorry, technical.
I don't.
Okay, which means I'll have to go to downloads again. So,
Whether you want to play. I hear Parvati has a copy as well. Do you want
I've
her
got
to play it?
I've got it here. I've got it.
Okay.
Open it, ma'am, and then you can screen share.
Yeah, it's come on. Okay. Now I have to
Screen
open
share.
it. I've opened it. Then I get back to
Zoom.
I'm already.
Ma'am, you have to share your screen.
No, but I have to get back to Zoom. No? Get back to the meeting.
You are in.
Open your taskbar, ma'am. Below.
Yeah,
Found Zoom.
I can see Shika in the corner. Yes. Now I can do it. No. Yeah, now I can do it.
Okay.
Can you see it? Can you see the screen?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
You can. Okay, shall we go?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I've been asked to talk on the preservation of saris by a young lady, Shika doctor, and we've been going back and forth and, trying to do whatever is best and exchanging ideas and all that. So I should first thank Shika for making this possible, because I cannot resist anything to do with textiles or saris, and it's always wonderful to share whatever knowledge one has to disseminate knowledge.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Now we begin. Now most of you are aware of, you're aware of what a loom looks like.
Ma'am, begin your slideshow, no, ma'am. It will become easier for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
To me, the weaver is always a kind of architect, and when he weaves, it is music for me. That's why I wrote the song of the loom, because you see him sitting there and then passing the shuttle back and forth, and getting the weft to marry the warp, and there's always a tuck 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 noise, which is so beautiful, and it always feels like music to me. And actually, very few of us respect the weavers. We just look at the end product, and then we think, we criticize the color, we criticize the design, but what a lot of sweat and blood goes into the making of a sari, one doesn't know. That is why it is so precious to have this sort of heritage with us. And here you see a tangle of threads, you see the reed pick, and you see the warp running across the weft, and in the background you see some of the saris which are preserved. So coming to my topic, these saris are precious to us. They are our legacy passed on from centuries. And so this is why we have to keep them so carefully. Here you see a Kanchipuram sari, and the saris you're going to see now are part of the Madras, the Dakshin Chitra Craft Museum, the Textile Museum. And some of them, of course, are torn, as Geeta told you, but we can't really see it. see, the main sari has always a border. It's got a body and it's got a pallu. And the tearing areas are always here where the pallu is, because see now the way it is hung up, this is the weight of the sari. The weight is always here. And what happens is sometimes it can't take the weight because the fabric is soft. And so it just tears. Now this is the border of the sari which is highlighted. It's just the border and they removed the border. But what you can see is a lot of thread work there. And very often when we wear sandals and you know, some things, embellishments on the sandals that you have nowadays, it catches the thread of the border, the gold thread, which is very easily, you know, which gets entangled very easily. So this is the reason why I always attach a fall. Though many people say the Kanjivaram sari, the border is so thick, why do you attach a fall? I attach a fall to my pattu saris because I feel it gives it strength and it also protects it, because the threads go over to the wrong side also, and it catches on the shoe or sandals or whatever it is they're wearing. This is again another beautiful sari. And here you see the buttis, and you see this is a lighter kind of sari in the sense the pallu is not so heavy, so the dangers are not so much there. And this is a very heavy sari. It's a brocade sari with a lot of zari, and it has to be treated with a lot of respect, because these are rare saris and difficult to weave today. Now this again is an exquisite sari. I can't see the entire sari, so I reckon it could be a paithani, or it could be a very old sari with the mail kanne, and these sort of motifs were done in the past. Sometimes we would get automobiles and airplanes and things like that, and people used to think they were very modern. Those were the motifs on the sari. Now this is the way one normally hangs up a sari. This is an untidy collection, but what I could get out at a short notice. So the way it has been stacked, all the pattu saris are not together, it's just sort of put pell-mell. And what you see is the saris are hung up in the middle, like this. This is how it's hung up. So what happens is, this is the area which is going to give way. Because a lot of our saris are rusting, I mean, lying there in the cupboard unused because of the pandemic. We don't wear saris, leave alone saris at home. We don't go out. We don't go for weddings. So they're just tucked away and, you know, just kept like this. So what do? That is the next question. Then this is another way of piling the saris. You know, generally, like even in shops, you see the saris piled one on top of the other. And even this is not a very good way to stack the saris. So the question you might ask is, then how does one store the saris? What is the solution for it? See, for one thing is, don't subject a sari to this kind of folding all the time. What you do is, very periodically, see, you have to put in a little bit of effort to preserve your saris. Take it and fold it on the reverse side. See, it was folded like that first. Now you fold it on the reverse. So when you fold it on the reverse, the crease is not heightened, in the sense there's not that much of a crease. So the chances of it tearing there is less. And secondly, another thing is, when we stack saris like this, they can't breathe. They're not like you and me, but in a way they are, because they can't breathe. So when we wear them, there's a lot of perspiration which we unknowingly pass on to the saris, and the perspiration can kill those saris. So that's another reason why sometimes you see holes in them. Then many women squirt perfume on the saris. So when they put perfume on and the perfume stays there, A, it might stain the saris, and B, it might ruin the saris also. So avoid it. So I'll tell you the ideal method, though it might not be practical, as to how to preserve the saris. Now this cannot be done for every sari that you own, but you can have this for some special saris which you rarely use. See, this is the point where the sari tears. And you see this, it's been folded and kept like that. So eventually, when you don't wear it, you take it out. One fine day, you'll gasp and say, oh my God, it's torn. So the best way to preserve a sari is, like, all of us have old veshtis at home, if we have men folk around. And if you don't, well, I'll tell you the next step. So what you do is you open out the sari on the veshti. Here I've kept a folded sari. The best way is to open it out as much as you can and as much as the veshti will permit. And then start rolling the sari. You see, this way the sari is protected by the veshti. So you keep rolling it till you come to the end. And then you make it up into a sort of a packet. And that's it. So that looks very neat, but I'm afraid very impractical. Then you store the saris. In fact, you can store more saris in your cupboard like this. But what happens is, when you want to take out a sari and you're in a hurry, like most of us just want to just wear a sari and get out, how will you know what's in the sari? I mean, what this parcel contains? You end up opening the whole thing. So these days, what I'm told is, a friend of mine in Bangalore, she showed me her cupboard, which she had specially made for the saris. They come with long rods, like wooden rods. And what you can just take the veshti and the sari together and roll it on the rods and keep it there. So all you have to do is to peek a little. Just open the veshti, you'll see the saris. Now, I don't know how many of us are willing to go in for an investment like this, because it's going to cost money and carpenters are not used to doing this sort of thing. But it's well worth it, because then the saris will last for twice as long as the other ones. I've done with the slides. So can I press stop share? Because now I'm just going to talk.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is in the middle. All right. So you'll have to think of all the questions you have to ask me, because it's very limited, and what I'm going to tell you is probably some things that you know already. The next question is, how would you wash the sari? Well, the easiest thing to do is to send it to the cleaners. But that is something that I would never do, because what happens is, when you take it to the cleaners, we don't know what sort of chemicals they are going to use and how they are going to clean it, and probably they would stretch it. And one thing they do is they squirt a lot of starch. Now the starch is the death of the sari. When you add starch to the sari, the starch remains there and eats away the yarn. So don't send it to the cleaners. Then how else do you preserve it? Well, there are friends who have said that they never wash their saris, because they say if they go to a wedding, they just stay for a little while, just a couple of hours, and then they come home. So when you come home, again, what do? When you come home, the first thing you do is to rip off your sari, because you don't want to wear the heavy thing, especially in Chennai weather. But you should not fold the sari immediately. This is what my mother taught me. She would just fold, pleat the sari and throw it over a chair or on the cot or something, and put the fan on so that it airs. It removes all the perspiration from the sari. These are little tips to make your sari last a little longer. And how do you wash the sari? Well, in the old days, what they used to do is, they had something like pungankote. It's called pungankote. It's something like shika nut, and it was soaked the previous day, and the next day previous night, and the next day when you just sort of mixed it up with your hand, you'll get a lather like soap. So you just dip the sari quickly in it, and don't sort of wring it dry as you would do normally. Rinse it clean, just the area where it touches the ground or the feet, that border portion, you just gently wash it with your hands. Rinse it completely and hang it to dry, preferably singly, across, lengthwise. It's not hung like this, but this way, this way. And if you get if you get a long enough line, of course you're going to just wash one sari a day. I mean in a day you might wash one sari, not many. So you take your trouble and you put it over the line, and when it is a little moist still, if you're ironing it yourself, that's the best time to iron it. Now, if you don't get this punga kote, what you should do is, you can use genteel. You can use, in the old days, we used to use Lux flakes. They were very nice and soft and lovely to the touch. But genteel is good enough. Just a little bit of genteel and soap, because it's not dirty. The sari is definitely not dirty. It's just that you want to take off the perspiration and so on. That is as far as pattu saris are concerned. Some of us have sent it to, we used to call them Banarasi walas. They used to have this polishing machine where if you feel your zari has become dull, you polish it. There's the way they do it is they have two wooden rods, and the sari is sort of fed in through it, and the rods go on over the sari, so that it is something like ironing, and it gives a sheen to the sari. But I also have a feeling that they do put in a little starch. So again, that is not good. So you have to give them specific instructions that they should not use starch on the saris when they do it. They used to be somewhere near the music academy. They had a small little shop, and I remember when I had my boutique Amrapali, I used to give even the cotton saris there, because they were beautifully finished and given back. Then cotton saris are different. Cotton saris can take a lot of beating. Cotton saris, you can even, some of the hardier ones, like the Madurai, the saris from Chettinad and so on, you can just put it on a quick wash or gentle wash in the washing machine, or hand wash it. Saris are difficult to hand wash all the time, but the hardier ones like the cottons can be done. And Benares saris are more difficult, whereas the Kanjivaram saris are not. And one other thing that my mother told me, and I've seen my great aunts and my women of my grandmother's time do, what they used to do is, even in this sort of hot weather, and those days there were no air conditioners and very few rooms had fans, they would wear pattu saris through the day. I really marvel at how they would do it. They would, morning to night, they'd wear the sari. And at the end of the day or the next morning, they would wash the saris. And how would they see in about, I don't know when the electric iron came in. What they used to do is, it was very nice. They used to have a sombo of hot water, and they'd fold the saris and just pass this brass sombo over the saris. Then fold it and put it under the pillow when they go to sleep. And the next morning, the sari would fall so nicely, soft, and with each wash, it used to get even softer. Then the next question is, what do you do if a sari tears? Now, we do have darners, we do have people who can darn, but sorry, I'll answer your questions at the end of the talk, because I know people are sending questions. I'll answer it at the end of the talk, but keep your questions ready. So there are darners, but they're frightfully expensive. And I once found a gold mine, in the sense that I went to the cleaners for something to give something belonging to my husband, a coat or something to be dry cleaned. And then I discovered there was this wonderful old Muslim man who was a darner, and it was incredible the way he darned. So if you get your sari done properly, you can wear it at least 4 or 5 times before you discard it. Then talking about discarding, what do you think all the people did? Our mummies and aunts and grandmothers. Once they finished with the sari, it was torn beyond redemption. What they would do, they would take it to I remember there was a small little potikada in Mylapore. They would give it there and melt the saris. And what they got was pure solid silver. Because in those days, uh, nobody used this half fine zari, as they call it. It was pure zari, and pure zari is made out of pure silver. It is made with a red thread, and the thread you have silver foil, pure silver foil wrapped around it, and then it's dipped in 24 karat molten gold. That's how zari is made. The best zari comes from Surat, though we have our depots here in Tamil Nadu as well. So a good weaver who sells the saris which you think are very expensive will only use pure zari, and you get solid silver. But I don't give away my saris or throw them, because I feel, whenever I get some tourist groups who are sent to me for lectures on textiles, I set up one room, make it like a little exhibition hall with saris from various states of India, because each state has its own vocabulary. Show it to them and do a PowerPoint presentation. And if you still don't want those saris, please give them to Dakshin Chitra Textile Museum. They'll be very happy to display the sari, and it will also have your name on it, so you live forever there. In fact, that's what I've written. You kind of look around and look at all the things that you have and you want to get rid of them. Your children are no longer interested in them. Who wants these rubbish, these sort of saris which are all torn? Amma has kept them. So I've written, actually, part of my will, I've written that all these saris should go to Dakshin Chitra Textile Museum, which I was very much a part of in the beginning. And so I think you young people should remember that, to come and claim your spoils. Yeah. So because I do have a good collection, and it's of no use to anyone, but then it will be lovely for the viewing public to look at each sari, write a little history about it, and see where it goes. Yeah, I think that covers everything. And by the way, if you have printed saris, we have these hand block printed saris in vegetable dyes. They have to be washed very carefully. They cannot take very strong detergents. And when you hang them out to dry, you always dry them on the wrong side. So if you take a little care, I mean, these saris will last for quite some time. I've got saris which are 40, 50 years old and they're still going strong. But what happens is it puts off the youngsters. They say bad enough owning a sari, bad enough wearing these cumbersome saris, and having to care for them and look after them and listen to all these do's and don'ts. It's a bit much. Well, if you treasure something and you want it to last, you have to do it. So that's everything in a nutshell. So if there are, now I'll be glad to take questions. If there are any questions, please go ahead. Thank you.
Ma'am, wanted to ask you, you said you have saris with you which are almost 50 years old. How do you really preserve all of them? I mean, I'm sure you take them all out, maybe 50 years old or 40 or whichever, which has got strong memories for you. You bring them out, I'm sure. How do you really then take care of them? Are they all always washing gentle, or would you also recommend that one doesn't wash one saris often and just air them out and keep it?
Yes, I always say, don't wash a sari unless you have to, because as I said, you go somewhere, of course, now in the days of COVID, it's different, pandemic, it's quite different. because you just go for a wedding and the sari smells of jasmine and perfume and things like that. You bring it back, you air it and put it back. And yes, you have to periodically air your saris. You have to take them out, you have to air them. It doesn't mean you have to go open air. You can do it in your own room, keep the windows open, put the fan on, and just spread the saris out, and then occasionally come and turn them over. It's worth it. You do it at least every 4 months or 5 months. See, right now, because everything is closed and we are not using the saris, I find that, the saris are smelling musty. So I told myself that despite the pandemic, I'll start wearing at least one cotton sari every day, because that way they get to be washed and they get to be aired, and I wear them and get pleasure out of them. Does it answer your question, Sulekha?
It does, but I wanted a bit of a nugget from you on how do you really look at your saris that have been with you for more than 40 years? What memories do they hold for you?
They hold a lot of memories. I've got my Nichadatham sari, and I must tell you that my mother-in-law took me to Vijayalakshmi stores. Vijayalakshmi in Bangalore. It was in Chitpet. We lived in Bangalore, and it was quite odd. It was about 8:30 or 9 at night, and she rang up that man and said, "I'm going to shop for my future daughter-in-law. Please keep the store open." So they kept it open, and I have always believed in simplicity, and I would never wear anything jazzy or wear heavy jewelry. But then she said, no, you have to choose something nice. And we went through a whole lot of saris. And then she said, listen, you buy something good, because you get married only once. So if she had said it today, I would have said, no, you don't get married once. You might get married once, twice, thrice. So you don't have to get a good sari each time. But that sari was just beautiful. She wanted it in gold. So I chose a off-white with gold. It was actually a Benares sari, and it was exquisite. It just shimmered, and yet it didn't look overdone. That was one sari. And then my wedding sari was a Sholapuri sari. Actually, that tore because it was very thin silk and it was in bright pink. Then, of course, I have memories of the pink Mysore silk sari that I wore when my husband first came and saw me. So my parents decided that pink would suit me very well. So I wore that sari. So that's very, it brings back a lot of memories. Yes, every sari brings back memories. You think of the sari you wore when you had your first child, your mother gave it to you, then your Grahapravesam when your parents gave you something. Yes, everything has a story to tell. And it's just like when you want to clean out your cupboard and throw away things, you come across an album with photographs in them. Then instead of throwing out and getting on with your work, what do? You sit down, look at it, then go back in time, and then think of all the lovely memories. Sometimes you cry, sometimes you laugh. So that's the same thing with saris.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. That is really nice of you to share.
Hello.
Yes, Lakshmi.
Ma'am, Lakshmi here. I'm a staff of Dakshin Chitra. I have something to ask you.
Yeah.
Even I get some, I have some saris which belongs to 70, 80 years old, literally, which is from my mom and my grandmom, literally.
Okay.
And see, which is not in a wearable condition really, because it's nice, it's not towed as such. But I feel really scared to wear it, because at any point of time, if I get to wear it and walk, it might tow. So I'm not in a position to wear it literally, but I wanted to preserve it in such a way, because it gives the pleasure of holding their sari literally.
Absolutely.
So I use this wooden almirah literally to keep my saris, and
Yes.
you said I also use the veshti to put the sari into it. But I don't roll it literally, as you said. This point I got it from you, but I have that veshti, so I'll keep my sari and then wrap it on, and then keep it like that. And then I'll stack it one after another. That's how I do it literally.
Yeah.
And then I also use this naphthalene balls, which I put it in a white piece of cloth, and then I tie it, make it as a little bag, and put it in 4 corners of my almirah. And it smells but fine, fumigated kind of. Do you think that's fine? Is
So
it?
Lakshmi, what you could do is, instead of naphthalene balls, you could use dry neem leaves. That would
Okay.
be better, because this
Okay.
naphthalene balls also has some kind of chemical thing, which I'm
Okay.
not too happy about. They say
Okay.
it keeps off the insects, and your wise, whatever you're doing right. You put them in a wooden cupboard, and you take them out, and then you put it in a veshti. One of my weavers told me that now all the shops give special cloth bags,
Okay.
so that you're saved the bother of finding a veshti and wrapping the sari in it. You put it in a cloth bag, and then you turn it this way so that you can see the edge of the sari, so you know which
Saris.
sari you want to wear. But still, it's not the same as wrapping. But then
Okay.
it's something better than nothing. Then you said that they were so nice that you'd like to wear them, but at the same time, you're afraid to wear them. And yes, it has
Yes.
happened to me once. I took out a sari which was not torn at all. It was an old sari, beautiful sari. And when they announced dinner, I got up, and to my embarrassment, the sari tore. Fortunately, it was at the back, and I had this habit of having a long pallu. So I very neatly, I quietly tucked in the torn part on top, and then I took out the pallu and just tucked it inside my waist, so that the pallu was seen in all its glory. And I got a lot of compliments. What a beautiful sari! What a lovely pallu! So I said, little do you know what happened to me. It's torn. So
Wow, quite interesting.
what you could do is, if you still want the feel of it,
Uh,
and if you can bear to sort of even cut a portion of it, you can use part of it as a dupatta. And like the Malayalam Mundus and the Assamese, they wear like a half sari. If you're used to wearing that, you could make a nice silk skirt to match that, and use this like a davani. Davanis have come back into vogue.
yeah, obviously, in the form of Gagra Choli.
Yes, and you put that, and you just wear it so that you've still got the sari on your body. You still have those memories, but you're not afraid of it getting torn. See, because it's the lower portions which will tear.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Not at all.
Sabita, there's
Excuse me, madam. I have a point to share.
Yes.
So instead of using naphthalene balls, you can use Vasambu, which is, I do not know its English name, but Vasambu can be used,
Yes.
which can be bought from not Barundakadai.
Absolutely.
That can be used.
You can use that. I think Vasambu, no, it's not nutmeg. Yeah, the English equivalent, I'm not too sure. But yes, that is good. And this neem leaves, but you shouldn't use them when they are, juicy and all. Otherwise, the smell will come out of the sari, the juice will spill on. Yeah, another thing I've not talked about is stains. What do you do when a sari gets stained? What do you do when the color of the sari runs? This doesn't go under preservation, but I'll just tell you in brief. What you should do is, see, the pinks and the turquoise blue are the danger colors. They are sure to run if they've not used good chemicals. The old days, they were only vegetable dyes, so nothing happened to them. But this, you've got to be pretty careful. So what I used to do is tie up the border. See, if this is the border of the sari, this portion, you tie it up with the plastic. You fold it like this, tie it up with, cover it with plastic and tie it up with a string on both sides. And then just dip the body into the bucket of, basin of soap water or something, and wash it. Then you reverse the process when you want to wash the border. You have to do it very carefully. It is very arduous. And for heaven's sake, don't give it to your maid, however trustworthy she is, because you'll have it all over. Then when we were running our printing unit, we had a dyeing section as well. People would come to me with saris which were terribly stained, the colors had run. So we used to do the same thing. I had some wooden blocks made where it encased the border of the sari and the pallu. And we dyed the body so that a darker color, so that it would hide the colors which had run. And the same thing, if the color runs into the border, you could do the same thing. So I don't know whether you still have those kind of skilled hand dyers, but I used to take great pleasure in doing it. But the thing is, being a bad businesswoman, I would never know how to charge. So they got off things practically free because I used to feel so sorry to see a lovely pattu saree spoiled. And usually it's the whites which take a beating. And if you keep it in a steel cupboard, a Godrej Almirah, something like that, even if you haven't spilled something, there's always inevitably a yellow stain on it. You know, you can't, that's why many people hesitate to buy white sarees, off-white sarees. Yeah, sorry, Lakshmi, did I answer your question or did I digress?
Yes, very much.
Okay.
I got my questions answered. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Savita, there's one. Renuka was asked, any tips for simple washing for people who stay outside India?
See, outside India, you get such a range of washing powders, which are free from heavy chemicals or detergents, that it would serve just like Genteel. And again, when you live abroad, the chances of your wearing a sari is less and less. You might wear a silk salwar kameez or a gagra or something like that, but there are less chances. So that means less washing. And the rule is the same. You just wash it by hand, don't put it in the machine, and use a very delicate washing soap.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hello, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am, can you tell us which sarees last longer, cotton sarees or silk sarees?
That's a good question. Now it's a very debatable question because it all depends on how many saris you wear. I mean, how often you wear the cotton saris or the silk saris. You tend to wear silk saris less. But if you haven't preserved them properly, they will definitely tear before the cotton sari. Now the cotton sari thrives because you wash it again and again. And also you wear them more often, so they get aired. And see, I've stopped buying saris, except some gifted to me. So when my mother was alive, I used to get one sari for my birthday and one for Diwali and some in between. But I would never buy saris. But already you find that you have such a collection. But all the saris that I have, believe you me, the cotton saris are 35 to 40 years old. And if I wear them today, you'd still think it's new. The sari that I'm wearing is about 15 years old. But it looks new. And it's also the way you, unfortunately for me, I have a Dhobi whom I starch my saris at home, but he will iron it for me and he does it so well that it looks practically new when you wear it. And once it's ironed and given to you, you can wear it about 3-4 times, just iron at home, nothing happens. It looks as good. Yeah.
And how do you differentiate between Pawloom sarees and handloom sarees?
That is Shika, isn't it?
Yes.
We talked about this yesterday, and that's a very good question, though it's nothing to do with our topic. Powerloom sarees, are done by machine, and handloom sarees are done by hand. But the powerloom sarees are cheaper, and they are capable of replicating the sarees, to the last thread. For a lay person, you will not be able to know which is powerloom and which is handloom. But if you pass your hand over the sari, the powerloom sari will be smoother in touch. The handloom sari will be a little rough. And if you see the edge of the sari, like these tassels, you will find that the powerloom saris are very, 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 very smooth, very smooth. But the handloom sari will have a degree of roughness, rough quality to it. And the thing is, the powerloom sari will be perfect because it's done by machine. Whereas the handloom sari will have some element of defect, which adds to its beauty. But then later they got smarter and they started reproducing the defects also, so that you can't tell. But what I don't like is I tell my weavers this. If ever you go in for powerloom, though I support only handloom weavers, there's this one cluster that I'm supporting in Jalakandapuram. And by the way, I've sent Lakshmi from Dakshin Chitra should have got the catalog by now, the new catalog we made of the weaver sarees. So this man has only 10.
It has been made.
Yeah, it's with you. So the 10 or 15 looms are in handloom, and the rest he says, Amma, I can't help it. In order for the weavers to survive, we've gone into powerloom. But he has the honesty to say that these are handloom sarees and these are powerloom sarees. Now the powerloom sarees, he's selling about 750. The same saree in handloom would cost 950 or over 1,000. But if you're particular like me in owning a handloom saree, and if you're a traditionalist, you're a purist, you'll still go in for the handloom sarees. The powerloom sarees are lighter, so sometimes they tear faster than these sarees. But for lay people who don't mind, they say, what does it matter as long as it looks beautiful? Well, it's up to each person.
Quick question, Sabita. Our librarian Indu wants to know, how do you starch your sarees at home?
Hi Indu, I can't see you, but it's nice to hear at least your question.
Come
and
here.
I used to be a very frequent visitor to your library.
There she is.
Hi Indu, how are you? How are you?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Okay, how do I starch the saree? For Minnala, we used to use the rice kanji or the sabudana. We used to boil it and then strain it and use it. But again, it's too much of a bother. There is a starch powder in the market called Revive. So you just take, there's a measure there. For each sari, you take about 1 heaped spoon measure, and then put it in, just say about half a liter of water. Then I actually take egg beater. I've kept a beater just for this, and whip it up so that the whole thing blends very well. Then add a little more water, just enough to put the sari in, and I push the sari in. And then I soak it for about 10 minutes and then hang it to dry. See, then again, what I'm saying is, see, this is not how you hang the sari to dry. I mean, sorry, this is the way you have to hang it, with the border showing like this. You don't have to fold it so narrow. Open it out, but make sure that the border is down, not this way, this way. And then the starch spreads evenly. And why I'm saying you have to beat it up is, otherwise you, in a badly starched sari, you will see starch all over, especially in a dark sari like what I'm wearing. You'll see it, but once you beat it up nicely, this will not happen. And for black saris and dark saris, you should strain it so that that surface, thing of that kanji will be removed. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're all the brave lady girls who are coming to Dakshin Chitra. I'm still hesitating because I've not gone out of the front door for 9 months now. I told Geeta, she was the first person I allowed in when she came and videoed our interview.
Ma'am, how long do you think one should soak a sari in gentle? I mean, should it be done for at least 10 minutes or should you just...
No. Don't soak at all, please. Just wash immediately. Don't soak. Because if you soak, the chances are, I'm talking about a pattu sari. You soak it, the chances are that some color will seep out. So do it immediately. Don't soak. And use your hands. Don't use anything like a brush.
Ma'am, I have one more question. I know your talk is on preservation, but would you give us tips on how do you really buy pattus and how do we really know whether they're authentic when one is buying them?
Okay. One question I have to ask you is whether you're keen on buying a very authentic pattu sari or whether you're buying it just wearing it for it to look nice on you and pleasing. So those are questions you have to ask yourself. If I were to go for a pattu sari, I belong to the old school, but even when I was 18 years when I started wearing a sari, I would like to go for the original thing. And how you find out is, A, you just don't go into any of these stores which have just sprung up like mad. They offer the saris cheap. They tell you it's discount, and they say almost like buy one get one free sort of thing. You go to a good store, a reputed store. Like in the old days, we had Radha Silks, which you could believe, and then you had Nalli, which is again, it costs less, but I would still go to a store which has very good saris. See, some have designer saris and they charge a lot. It's not necessary. It's not necessary to go to a designer store to buy the saris. Then another question is, do you like traditional saris or do you like something contemporary? Because there are shops which also sell contemporary saris. And how you would know is, a Kanjivaram sari without zari will not cost less than about 7,000 or 8,000. And if you now today, see, I had this sari reproduced, which I showed you. I had this sari reproduced. I'll show you what it is. It's a beautiful sari, but it tore. So I had it reproduced by one of my weavers. I don't know whether you can see it.
Yeah, we can.
We can.
So I had it reproduced in various colors. So the sari, when you touch it with your hand, the minimum weight for a Kanjivaram sari is about 550 grams. But now they are making lighter saris. Again, it depends on you. If you like lighter saris, see, the sari is made with the yarn, warp yarn, twisted. We call it murukupet. That is when it's twisted yarn is used so that it becomes thicker. But if you use a single yarn, naturally it will become thinner and softer, which is what people prefer these days. So there are a lot of ifs and buts. And it's definitely not a Kanchipuram sari if it's just about 4,000 or 5,000. It cannot be. Real Kanchipuram sari, now this sari which I showed you is today, I actually wore it for my book launch at Madras Literary Society. And a lot of people were asking. And then because it was on the looms, the book I wrote was on the looms, we had displayed saris all over, and I called in my weavers to display what they had done. And this sari, about 3 saris sold because they all wanted the sari at which I wore. It is something like 15,000 today. It's simple. It's got lines inside. It has no zari, but that's the price you pay. Then you ask yourself whether you do want to pay that much for a sari. But if you hardly wear saris, if you just wear it once in a way, it's nice having a good sari in your collection. Whatever you buy, if you buy a quality sari, it will also last. It won't sort of fade away or tear easily.
Excuse me, madam, I have a question. In Fab India, we get good sarees, but all those shops, they advertise, you first time you dry clean it and then you start wearing it. But that's really good. And if we dry clean it once and afterwards we need not dry clean, but it lasts for a long time. So instead of avoiding this dry cleaning, what should we do? What should we do to avoid this dry cleaning?
See, again, I'm talking about in my mother's time, they would never wear a sari new from the shop. They would say it's too shiny and too stiff, again, because of the starch. What they would do is just dip the sari in water and remove it. Just dip it and remove it, and then get it ironed. I know it hurts because the sari looks so nice and brand new and you want to wear it for an occasion. You want to wear, you know, a sari like that. But to go and put it in water, you wonder what you're going to do. But that's the way they used to do it. I would say wear it as it is once or twice and then dip it in water and remove it. I don't encourage dry cleaning at all. I don't do it for any of my saris and they've lasted. I know all the shops say that dry clean it once and then use. This is a common thing, but I don't know whether it's a time-tested kind of advice.
Yeah, it's a costly advice also.
Yes, yes, it is. And it's also the way you hang that is very important. Like once I had a very gorgeous sari which I didn't wash or didn't think I had it done for my daughter's wedding. It was, made to order, and the pallu was just exquisite. I'll never again buy a sari so expensive, or those days it was just 3,000, but today it must be about 40,000 or something. So my mother felt very bad because she said, listen, you've been wearing the sari without washing. Just dip it in water and take it out. Now, what I did is I just dipped it in water and hung it. Unfortunately, I let the pallu hang. Just so. The pallu just ripped off. Right now, it's with one of my weavers. He says he'll recondition it and he'll try to put it back so that I can at least wear it 3-4 times, before it goes into my torn sari collection. I also feel you have to be lucky, in this. You might make
Yeah.
a wrong choice.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Okay, then Sulekha, you have something to ask?
Can I ask? Ma'am, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
sure.
I'm barged with so many questions.
That's
Uh,
okay. It's always nice.
Ma'am, I have a Banarasi sari, which is almost 30, 35 years old, which I've never worn because I'm so scared. I don't know whether it is torn. It's not torn. I can open it. But I'm just worried that it might come off. So how do you really preserve a Banarasi? I've never washed it. So how do you really preserve
No,
it?
but why do you say you've never worn it? Why do you have a sari which you've never worn?
No, ma'am, it was, I had worn it for my wedding 35 years ago.
Okay.
And then I wrapped it and put it, and I've never taken it out of that wrapping. And sometimes I just open it just for the heck of it because I'm like, okay, I have the sari, but I don't have an occasion to wear it ever. So it's there in the, but I'm just wondering whether, I don't know how to preserve it. I've just, as you said, I've wrapped it in a veshti and kept it, occasionally aired it, never worn it. So I'm just asking you, how do you really store your Banarasi? Or is it, I mean, you did say that Banarasi is more delicate than.
No, it's more delicate. I wouldn't advise you to wash it now because you kept it like that for 35 years. And is it very grand, something that you can't wear?
I wouldn't call it very grand. I just tried it once and I thought it is a bit lengthwise a bit smaller than now what we would wear. We would have more pleats and a longer pallu. I think it's a little smaller than that.
Okay, there are two things you could do. I have this problem because I'm tall. Sometimes the saris are not wide enough. And if you like to have a big pallu and if you're, wide around the hips, you need more pleats. So what I do is I got a sewing girl who attaches about 1/2 meter inside the sari to give it the width, and maybe sometimes she'll attach a bit for the top also. But what I suggest, Sulekha, is that the sari has so many memories for you. Wear it for a safe place, like safe place in the sense if you're going to someone's house for dinner, or not in a public function where if the sari tears, you've had it. Like I told you, it happened to me. But you wear it because you should love wearing it because it has so much of memories, and you say it's not that grand. So don't just keep it away, look at it and put it away. Wear it. It doesn't matter even if it tears. At least you have the satisfaction of having worn it. See, same thing with when people, keep away their crockery and say for a good occasion, I won't take it out. They put away I always say, instead of it being in a cupboard, why don't you have the pleasure of using it? Okay, one odd plate might break, but it doesn't matter. At least you've had the joy of using it. So don't just put it away. Wear it. And send me
polished.
Sorry?
I will, ma'am.
Sorry?
I will. Ma'am,
You
can
do
it be
that?
polished?
And please send me a picture of you wearing it. I want to see it. All of them have. Yeah, I'd love to see you wear it. Be careful when you go for polishing because as I told you, they stretch it. And if the sari is weak in any place, it will tear. So you go to a good polisher and ask him to advise you whether you should polish it or not. But just ironing, pressing it at home will do fine. And as I said, wear it. Enjoy yourself.
A pleasure listening to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's nice.
Okay, I guess we can wrap up with this. It was
Yeah,
so
good.
interesting. Though we thought we knew everything about saris, we knew nothing about saris, preserving saris. And it was so interesting because you're a storyteller. I guess you can make
Yes.
any session, any subject
Let me just
worth listening.
share something with you. It was a backhanded compliment. one day I was describing something that happened, and this is again something to do the sari, so I'll tell you. I went somewhere for dinner, and again I wore a sari which was not wide enough for me. And we had a lot of people there, and eminent journalists and people like N. Ram and all this. Then I had the plate in my hand, and then suddenly I looked at something familiar on the floor. My pleats had completely fallen off, and it was there. And here I was with wearing half the sari. So, luckily no one, it was dim lighting. So what I quickly did is I gave my plate to, my mother was there. I gave the plate to her, and she was in splits. So I just bent down quickly and took the sari. And as if I was talking to somebody, I covered it with this pallu like this, pleated it and tucked it in. It was high, but it was the most embarrassing moment of my life. When I shared it with my son, he said, "Amma, you're the world's best yarn spinner." So that was the fact. He didn't believe that such a thing could happen. So yeah, thank you for saying I'm a good storyteller. I like telling stories. Yes.
Thank you, Savita, and thank you all who participated. We'll have many more sessions if Savita is free to chat on this.
Yeah, I love talking.
She loves, she does a lot of things, so maybe one after the other we'll have you. Since it's Zoom and you don't have to come in person, I think we'll organize for more meetings like this, which will be really interesting. Yeah, thank you, Savita.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shika. Before you run off, thank you so much, Shika.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Geeta. Bye.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sudha.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudha. நீ உனக்கே யாருன்னு
Can you wind this up?
from Chromite அப்படி சொல்லு